Imagine being just hours away from a life-changing inheritance, one that could wipe away years of financial hardship and unlock doors to a future filled with endless possibilities. But what if, instead of a dream realized, that fortune became the catalyst for a sinister crime? This is the chilling case of Stephen Riley Jr., a 51-year-old man who died suddenly and under mysterious circumstances in September 2023, mere hours before he was set to receive a massive inheritance. At the heart of the tragedy is his girlfriend, Thea Kenoyer, whose behavior, statements, and actions raise grave suspicions about what really transpired. This gripping investigation is built upon police body cam footage, interrogation recordings, and key witness testimonies, unraveling a disturbing tale of deception, greed, and ultimately, murder. Scene 1. A drunken neighbor and a chilling boast. The story begins with an unsettling foreshadowing, an incident seemingly unrelated yet ominous in retrospect. Just days before Stephen's untimely death, Thea Kenoyer made a 911 call to report a disturbance involving a drunken neighbor. The responding officers captured the scene on body cam footage, which, at the time, appeared insignificant. Yet, within the footage lay an eerie clue. Ina, unfazed by the chaos of the moment, nonchalantly spoke about the couple's impending financial windfall. She expressed excitement over the anticipated inheritance, emphasizing how they would finally be free from financial burdens. She spoke of paying off mounting debts, planning a long-awaited vacation, and embarking on a new, carefree life. Her tone was jubilant, almost giddy, completely unaware that her words would soon carry a far more sinister weight. What seemed like casual remarks would later become chilling evidence in a web of lies and greed. Days later, Stephen would be dead, and the fortune they had dreamed of would transform into a nightmarish motive. Scene 2. The inheritance. A dream turned nightmare. The circumstances surrounding the inheritance were extraordinary, almost too good to be true. Stephen Riley Jr. had been contacted by a man claiming to be his long-lost uncle from Ireland, Marcus Riley. According to Marcus, Stephen was set to inherit a staggering fortune, initially estimated at $17 million. However, through supposed savvy investments, the amount had grown exponentially, reaching what Ina believed to be a jaw-dropping $30 million. This was not just an unexpected windfall. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that could change everything. The source of this immense wealth was allegedly tied to a series of property sales and high-value assets managed through a British lawyer. Stephen and Ina envisioned a new reality, a luxurious lifestyle without the constraints of debt and financial stress. They spoke frequently about relocating, traveling the world, and finally, experiencing the kind of freedom that had always seemed out of reach. To them, the inheritance represented more than just money. It was a gateway to a new identity, an escape from the struggles of their past. However, investigators would soon cast serious doubt on the legitimacy of this inheritance. The story was riddled with inconsistencies, and authorities began to suspect that the entire fortune might have been an elaborate fabrication. Could it be that Stephen had been lured into believing a lie? Or worse, was someone willing to kill over a fortune that never even existed? Scene 3. The death, a sudden and suspicious illness. On the very day that Stephen was supposed to claim his long-awaited inheritance, tragedy struck. While at the airport, he suddenly became ill, experiencing symptoms that left him disoriented and panicked. He complained of feeling drunk, though multiple witnesses confirmed that he had consumed little to no alcohol. His condition worsened at an alarming rate. As his symptoms escalated, Stephen was rushed home, where he began violently vomiting and displaying signs of severe distress. Initially, those around him believed he had suffered from heat stroke. Earlier that day, he had been working on his truck in the stifling heat of his garage, a plausible explanation for sudden exhaustion. Yet, something about his deterioration seemed far too severe for mere heat-related illness. His speech became slurred, his coordination failed, and he grew increasingly confused. One person, in particular, felt uneasy about the situation: Billy Burkhead, a close neighbor. Something wasn't adding up. The rapid decline, the bizarre symptoms, the circumstances surrounding the supposed inheritance, it all painted a picture that was far more sinister than an unfortunate accident. As the investigation deepened, shocking revelations would emerge, exposing a chilling truth, one that would turn a dream of wealth and luxury into a horrifying case of greed, deception, and cold-blooded murder. Scene 4. A neighbor's suspicion. Poison in the air. As Stephen's condition worsened, one person couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong: his neighbor, Billy Burkhead. Watching Stephen deteriorate so rapidly was unsettling, but what disturbed Billy even more was Ina's behavior. Instead of showing panic or distress, she appeared eerily calm, almost indifferent. Something about her demeanor didn't sit right. Billy confided in the police, voicing a horrifying suspicion: poisoning. His unease wasn't based solely on intuition. He recalled past conversations with Ina, in which she had made chilling remarks about how, if she ever wanted to kill someone, she would use antifreeze, a deadly, odorless, and easily disguisable toxin. With Stephen exhibiting symptoms of severe poisoning, Billy's suspicion seemed all the more plausible. Could it be that Ina had been planning this all along? The connection between her past statements and Stephen's sudden illness was too alarming to ignore. Scene 5. Contradictions and lies, unraveling the story. As the investigation deepened, Ina's story quickly began to fall apart. Her account of Stephen's last hours was riddled with contradictions. She insisted he had been drinking heavily, despite toxicology reports showing no alcohol in his system. She changed her version of events multiple times, first claiming he had felt ill in the morning, then saying it started at the airport, and later insisting he had visited a clinic, though no medical records supported this claim. Her attempts to explain Stephen's symptoms felt desperate, as if she was grasping at straws. The inconsistencies raised even more suspicions, and investigators started piecing together a disturbing narrative. It became evident that Ina wasn't just being evasive, she was actively trying to cover something up. Scene 6. The interrogation, a masterclass in deception. When confronted in the interrogation room, Ina's mask of composure began to crumble. She fidgeted, avoided eye contact, and constantly contradicted herself. Detectives noticed how her demeanor shifted under pressure. She became defensive, agitated, and visibly uncomfortable. She attempted to deflect blame, pointing fingers at Billy and his wife, painting them as the true culprits. But her accusations lacked credibility. The detectives pressed harder, their questions more direct, their tone more insistent. As the walls closed in, Ina's confidence eroded. She stumbled over her words, struggled to keep her lies straight, and finally, realizing she was cornered, invoked her right to a lawyer, an act that effectively ended the interrogation, but only deepened the suspicions against her. Scene 7. The evidence. A bottle of antifreeze. The breakthrough came when investigators searched Stephen and Ina's apartment. What they found was damning. Hidden in plain sight was a Windex bottle containing a green liquid, suspected to be antifreeze. Even more incriminating was a Coors Light bottle found in the garage, the very place where Stephen had been working before he fell ill. This wasn't just any bottle. Stephen was known to drink Coors Light, and inside this one, investigators found traces of antifreeze. Tests confirmed the toxic substance, providing irrefutable proof that Stephen had been poisoned. It was the missing piece, the final link between Ina's past statements, Billy's suspicions, and Stephen's death. Scene 8. The motive. Greed, a breakup, and a bogus inheritance. With the forensic evidence in place, investigators turned their focus to motive. What they uncovered was a tangled web of greed, deception, and desperation. Ina was convinced she was entitled to a portion of Stephen's supposed $30 million inheritance, believing herself to be his common-law wife. but North Dakota doesn't recognize common law marriages, meaning she had no legal claim to his fortune. To complicate matters, authorities found little evidence that the inheritance even existed. It seemed increasingly likely that Stephen had been the victim of an elaborate hoax, one that he tragically never had the chance to uncover. Compounding the situation, Stephen had reportedly planned to break up with Ina. If the inheritance was indeed a fabrication, that meant she was on the verge of losing everything: her relationship, her financial security, and potentially her credibility. Facing this reality, investigators believe she made a chilling decision. If she couldn't have the inheritance, no one could. Scene 9. The arrest, plea, and sentencing. With mounting evidence against her, Thea Kenoyer was arrested in October 2023 and charged with murder. She faced the possibility of life in prison without parole. However, rather than risk a trial, she ultimately pleaded guilty in a joint agreement between the prosecution and defense. Judge Richard Hagar accepted the recommendation, sentencing Ina to 50 years in prison, with 25 years to be served and 25 years suspended. In addition, she was ordered to serve 10 years of supervised probation and pay $3,455 in restitution to Stephen Riley's family. Scene 10. A tragic end. What was supposed to be the beginning of a new life for Stephen Riley Jr. instead became the cause of his untimely death. The dream of unimaginable wealth had turned into a nightmare of greed, betrayal, and murder. Stephen's story is a sobering reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of those we trust. The fortune he had counted on to change his life was never real, but the consequences of his belief in it were all too real. In the end, the promise of wealth wasn't just an illusion, it was a death sentence.